Hello. Not quarantine cuisine anymore because we're almost over that, hopefully. Don't think I can take any more. This is just cuisine. How to cook for a large family for days and done relatively cheaply. But still get lots of nutritious stuff. Today we are doing beef. Boff. Back on me. And we'll talk about the beef in a second. This is a take on a classic 1960s, 1970s recipe called Steak Diane, which is normally done with expensive fillet steak or Chateaubriand or something like that. But personally, I don't like fillet steak that much. It's tender but tasteless, and it's more expensive than gold. Back in the 1970s, food was big and creamy, and mushrooms and brandy and flambé and Black Forest gateaux and profiteroles. It was all incredibly bad for you, but deliciously tasty. So this is a slow-cooked, budget version of Steak Diane, except we're going to do it super low and slow cooked. To the beef. What we have here are 3 different cuts of beef. Back on me. That's not on purpose. You do not have to do this. It was just what was in the shops that were the cheaper cuts. I prefer the cheaper cuts of beef, providing you treat them carefully. They've got so much more flavour to them, and you get a lot more sort of bang for your buck. So back to the meat. We have braising steak here, which I believe in America is called chuck steak, and is typically what you would make burgers out of, because it's got a good fat content. Here we've got brisket, again high fat content and lots of collagen. And here we have absolutely my favourite, which is shin of beef. And you can see these stripes within it. And that's not fat, that is connective tissue. It sounds disgusting, but when you cook it down slow, it's just the tastiest cut of beef. This shin of beef over fillet steak any day of the week. Now, one of the things I want to do with this also is not to have too much cooking time. Well, it's going to be cooking for a long time, but I'm not going to be doing much prep. So we're going to do this in phases. Phase 1, get the beef, and then we're just going to put some oil on top of that. A little bit of oil. That's good. And in here, we've just got a mixture of salt and freshly cracked black pepper. Freshly cracked is so much better, so much tastier, so much more peppery than the stuff that's kind of ready ground up. It loses a lot of its oils and its flavours there. To that, we've got some powdered English mustard, and we're going to put 2 teaspoons of that in there. Give it a quick stir. And then we're just going to sprinkle this over the boff. Say boff, Joss.
Boff.
Boff. Now, English mustard is like a very hot and spicy mustard, but in the cooking of it, you'll get the flavour, but you'll lose quite a bit of that heat, so you can always top it up again later. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to get my hands stuck in. I'm going to mix all the beef together, and stop looking at the dog, Jocelyn. Look at me, because I am handsome. What am I?
Not handsome.
What?
Dog.
So we've got the oil. We've got the beef, braising steak, the shin and the brisket. You could use any one of these cuts or just regular, just stewing or casserole beef. I really like the slow and cheap cuts. Ox cheek is amazing in this. Ox tail is really, really good as well. I'm not adding, apart from the salt and pepper and the mustard, I'm not adding any other flavours to this yet, because I'm going to do this in sections, because I'm essentially quite lazy and want to make my life as easy as possible. By the time this is all done, it will be enough for a family of 5 ravaging monsters. You are a ravaging monster, Joss, what are you?
Yeah.
A ravaging monster, for 3 meals worth. Okay, so I don't know how that works out in cost wise, but you're probably looking at probably £2, £2.50 per person per meal. Okay, and we're going to get 15 meals out of this, 3 days worth of 5 people. Okay, so that's all mixed up. I'm going to cover this in foil. You know what? I'm going to put a little bit of water in that, just a touch.
You're going to use a yogurt pot?
I was going to use a yogurt pot. Just a little bit of water, so it'll steam. And I'm going to cover that in foil. And we're going to put it in our oven.
A brand new spanking oven.
Spanking oven. And it goes. So that is on a low heat. It's 150 degrees Celsius, which is about gas mark 5. No idea what that is in Fahrenheit. Look at it yourselves. And that is going to sit there for 3 hours. And then I'll test it with a fork, see if the meat is kind of falling apart. And if necessary, I'll give it a little bit more. And then later on, I'm going to concoct the sauce, the Diane sauce that will go along with that. Thank you very much. Filming?
Yep.
Hello. I am ancient. How ancient?
You are 104 at least.
I'm at least 104 years old. And because of that, I grew up in the 1870s. Well, the 1970s. Where food was really simple. It was Steak Diane, or steak with peppercorn sauce. It was profiteroles and Black Forest Gatto.
We're talking fancy restaurant food,
Fancy.
not what your mother made you. Because
No.
I know for a fact that was Finder's crispy pancakes.
It was Finder's crispy pancakes. Okay. But one of the classic sauces of the 1970s was a Steak Diane sauce. Now, traditionally, it's done with a really high quality cut of steak, like a fillet steak. But we have 5 carnivores in this house, and I could never have enough money to give us all fillet steak, unless it was an amuse-bouche. So I've thought about trying to do a variation of that, and on the earlier video that you've just watched to get here, we had all that lovely meat, which was put into the oven for slow cook. So here we have that mixture of brisket and braising steak and shin that was slow cooked for, I think, about 4 hours in the end. And then that's been, I did that part about 2 days ago. And so that's been heated back up again in a pan. In this pan here, I have a mixture of beef stock and tomato paste, which is going to be sort of the base of the sauce.
Like tomato puree.
Yeah, like tomato puree. Okay, tomato paste, tomato puree. And that's just been bubbling away and reducing down to the thickness I want, which is about there, like a sort of velvety thickness. Here we have another pan, which is on, and I'll turn it up in a bit. And what we're going to do is we're going to put some beef fat in there. Now, this is a beef recipe, and I want to get as much beefy punch in the face as possible. Speaking of which, I'm just going to have a quick drink on me. On me.
That's
On
beef,
me.
Sorry.
I'm doing my Keith Floyd bit.
Oh, okay. Is he dead now?
Yeah, cirrhosis of the liver. God bless him.
Well, you're on your way. That must be your 5th bottle of rum since lockdown
My
started.
2nd bottle of rum, but they've been really big bottles. Yeah, I've been having about a drink a night. It's been fantastic. I'm a big fan of lockdown. So we've got the beef fat in there. I want more beef flavour. You could use butter. You could use oil, but we're using beef tallow. Okay, into that, onions and garlic.
Oh, it's extra professional now because we've got that new set of aluminium bowls.
Stainless steel, I have you know.
Oh my God, so
Stainless steel,
profesh.
so profesh. Okay, so in that goes. Now I put the garlic and the onions in together. If I wanted to brown the onions off, I would cook the onions first and then the garlic afterward. But I'm looking for these just to get nice and soft as opposed to browned off. Okay, we've already got the flavour from the beef there. Just going to let that cook off for a bit. Just turn it up a touch. You can probably hear the dog drinking at the moment. He's searching his bowl for food.
Hey Jim, you want Steak Diane? Yes, says Jim. He won't be getting any because he's a dog.
Yes. No Steak Diane for the dog. Traditionally with this, you can have served with potatoes. Mashed potato would go quite well. Chips would go quite well. We're doing, what are you doing?
They're kind of just little roasty new potato bits.
Yep. Miniature roast potatoes in there. They're looking really good.
I microwave them just for 5 minutes first to get them going, and then you whack them in the oven. Doesn't take so long then.
So we're getting there with the onions. If you come look at the beef here, I've had this cooking in this pot for a while. So bits of the beef are actually stuck to the bottom. Good. We want that flavour. We're going to deglaze the pan. So as the onions are cooking, let me talk to you about the other ingredients. We have the mushrooms, which is kind of classic with Steak Diane. We have Dijon mustard, although you could use English mustard if you wished. We have black pepper, salt. We have the cheapest brandy I could possibly buy from the corner shop. It has Napoleon on it, but I think it's probably more Napoleon Dynamite than Napoleon Bonaparte. It's probably colour on use only or for stripping paint. Got a little bit of colour on those. And
Double cream.
And double cream. And every chef's secret ingredient, some Liam Perrins from that county I can't pronounce. Anyway, onions are cooked enough. Into that goes the mushrooms.
These are just normal button mushrooms, are they?
Yeah, they are. You could absolutely go hog wild here and use as many fancy mushrooms as you want. I'm going to add a little bit more fat to that. Now, when you're cooking mushrooms,
They soak it up, don't they?
they do soak it up, and they are also basically just 90% water. So what you don't want to do at this stage is add any salt to the mushrooms, because you end up just stewing the mushrooms in their own juices. Just got the temperature up on that. I think that's reduced enough, so I can switch that one off. We'll turn this one back on. And we can get some tossing here with the mushrooms. There's a real tendency to want to poke and stir and to do that. But every time you do that, you just cool it back down again. So we're just going to let them sit. That looks like a massive pan of mushrooms. It's going to reduce down to a small amount. No opportunities for more rum.
I think you might be a pirate, because that's an actual pint of rum.
It's a pint of rum. Keith Floyd was sadly dead now, a British cook. He might not even been a trained chef. I think he had a number of businesses that all fantastically went out of business because he just drank the profits. But for me, he's about my favourite cook that's ever been on TV, because he was a real fan of food. And liked to travel around and liked to cook it al fresco.
Yeah, like to cook outside in a butcher's pinny, didn't he?
Exactly, and always had a glass of wine on the go.
Yeah.
But he had a real passion for how food tasted. It wasn't fancied up, there was no jus reductions, there was no drizzled with foam. It was just really good solid cooking. It was probably my favourite TV cook.
Speaking of which, while you're tossing like a champion, you know I said I started listening to a new podcast.
Yes.
It's called How to Fail by Elizabeth Day.
Okay.
And it's exactly that. Every episode is an interview with a person of note, And having had a look through the episodes, there's pop stars, fashion designers, authors,
Is
broadcasters.
this a standalone podcast or is it a BBC one?
No, it's a standalone one. It's exactly what it says on the tin. It talks to these people and she asks them to pick their three failures to talk about. But it's a very positive podcast.
Oh,
and how much more, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn, that kind of thing. Anyway, the tenuous link is, the first one of hers that I listened to was an interview with Tom Kerridge.
Another great, that's my sort of cooking.
Actually a trained chef.
Michelin stars.
But the only pub in the UK with 2 Michelin stars.
Oh, I didn't know that too.
And it was fascinating. He seems like a lovely bloke, but he sells really good pub food. So yes, he's a chef, but in my mind, he's a great cook.
It's steak and kidney pudding, but done to the best level you could possibly imagine.
So that was a really good podcast to listen to if you're into food. And the podcast as a whole, How to Fail by Catherine Day, was a really interesting one. I enjoyed it very much, and there's lots of people on there I want to listen to.
One of the interesting differences between Americans and British is there's a huge stigma in Britain if your business has failed or gone bankrupt. Whereas in America, it's almost seen weirdly as a positive. And if you're back out there, good on you. You've learned from your mistakes. You won't do that again.
Yeah.
Where here, there's a lot of sort of stigma attached to it. Of course you learn from your mistakes. You don't learn anything by doing it right. We should have learned loads, right?
Yeah, we've learnt a lot.
Okay, now in fancy French cooking, the brandy will be flambéed. Okay, huge fireball, lose your eyebrows. You don't need to flambe. And in this high-sided pot, I won't be able to. So I'm using it as a deglaze instead. I want to get in there and use that brandy as a deglaze to scrape the bottom of the pan. And all those slightly burnt in a good way bits that are caramelised on the bottom. And it is literally caramelisation. It's the sugars from the meat getting stuck on there. I want to scrape the pan clean with the brandy. And as you cook it, the brandy has a much lower boiling point than water, and so it burns off. So you get the taste of the brandy, but you don't get any of the harshness from the alcohol, or in fact, any of the alcohol at all. So we can feed this to the kids with impunity. There you go. So if you look now at the pan, the bottom's clean, where it was all those stuck bits earlier on. Okay. I don't want that to re-stick, so I'm going to put in a ladle or two of the tomato and beef stock sauce. I'm going to do some tossing, because I am a tosser.
I know it has the same meaning in the States.
Tossing. The universal sign language. Now the British have got much more inventive swear words than the Americans.
You're making a lot of sweeping generalisations about Americans here.
Yeah, I think we're just better at swearing.
Well, it's smelling good.
It smells really good, doesn't it? Okay, so back onto the mushrooms. These are reduced down quite a bit now. There's a bit of colour on some of them. I want a little bit more, so let's let those continue to do their thing. And it's time to add some flavour in here. Start with some pepper. Now, this is on a low heat, and pepper loses its flavour if it's cooked or burnt. So you want to add the pepper later, rather than earlier in the cooking. And you don't want to cook it too hard. So plenty of fresh cracked black. We'll look at that sauce as it's looking. I'm going to add a bit more of the beef stock and tomato paste, and that's all it is.
Did you make the beef stock yourself, or is it from a cube?
I made this myself. A combination of stock that I had, and when I cooked this meat, there was just a lot. I cooked it in a tray with foil over the top of it, so the meat itself just leached out a lot of liquid, and so all that's gone into here as well. And then the tomato paste was just added to it, and it sort of gives you a little bit of sweet and a little bit of acid, which is one of the sort of things you're looking for. Okay, mushrooms, the onion and the garlic. This has had no seasoning yet. So now the mushrooms are reduced down plenty, it's time to add the salt. I'm using Himalayan pink salt because I'm pretentious. It tastes basically the same. It does have more minerals in it, but it's salt. But you do need more of it than regular table salt. It's not as powerful. So I'm going to toss that through. And that'll have the effect, now that most of the water is gone, of pulling out the last little bits of the water. The salt will act on the mushrooms with osmosis and pull that last bit out. That's looking obscenely good. I'm going to turn the oven off because the potatoes will be ready, but it'll stay warm there forever. I think we'll add a bit more of that in. Differences between me and you cooking. You're a really, really good cook as well, but you're a recipe person generally, aren't you? Where I'm,
if I want to try something new and I haven't made it before, then yes,
Yeah.
and I don't mind tweaking it the second time round.
where I'm a throw it in the pot and taste it and make it up on the spot kind of person.
You create a lot more washing up.
That's undeniable. Okay, flavours.
Liam Perrins.
Liam Perrins. A good splash of the chef's magic ingredient.
I thought that was the rum.
Oh shit. Alright, yes, good. Good point. Cheers. If you can hear the mushrooms, you can hear that the sizzle's gone a little bit to a higher point.
The screaming has stopped.
Yeah. Which means that caramelisation is starting to happen and they're browned off. So they can go in and that can go off. I'm going to add in the cream. Double cream, or if you're American, heavy cream. I'm assuming then there's light cream.
Would that be single?
Yeah, I think so.
Melissa might know. 'Cause she's
Yeah,
lived in both
I think
places.
so. And then with like their coffee, often in America you'd have coffee with cream as opposed to milk, or you'll have half and half, which is a mixture of milk and cream.
Sounds tiresome. Mind you, coffee tastes disgusting anyway, so put what you want in it, I don't care.
Well, you're wrong. Okay,
Yorkshire tea or death?
I'm going to check the seasoning now, but I haven't added the mustard yet.
Terrible?
Oh God.
Throw it away, fish and chips?
That is obscenely good. That's obscenely good.
So if you were going to make this with steak, would you still chop it up into little bits, or would you just have steak
No.
and then sauce on the top of it?
Steak and then sauce on top of it.
Okay.
This is almost like a stroganoff, but done with a Diane sauce.
Okay.
In fairness, although stroganoff traditionally is also done with steak. So no, you'd cook a steak, and then you'd prepare the sauce in the pan that the steak came out of, which is about the right sort of time because it gives that amount of time then for the steak to rest. Last little bit of that, added a tiny bit more salt to it. But it's not quite done yet. Come in close, can you see that? It just looks beautiful, doesn't it?
Does look pretty good.
Okay, last thing to add in is the mustard. Mustard's really unusual. it loses its flavour and its heat with cooking really quite quickly. So we're going to add a good dollop of Dijon mustard. That's probably about a tablespoon's worth. I'm going to stir it. In fact, I'm going to turn it off now, especially with this Dutch oven. It holds the heat for so long. I'm going to stir that through. I want to be able to taste the mustard in this, but I don't want overpowering. So it's about getting that balance right. I'm going to use a different spoon.
Clean spoon.
That spoon?
Not that one.
Didn't like that one. Okay.
Are you that good?
Oh, that is spectacularly good. It's just beautiful. I couldn't recommend this highly enough. This done with some simple carbohydrate, potatoes, mashed potato, some buttered noodles, rice would work really well, and then something green.
You haven't done anything green, have you?
I've done nothing green. Actually, just peas would be really good on this.
We might have eaten all the peas.
Anyway, spinach would be good as well, some cream spinach maybe. But there we go, dinner is served. Come on round. Get off your sofas, come join me, pour yourself a glass of wine, get yourself a lovely bowl full of slow cooked Steak Diane inspired cauldron of mess. Enjoy your weekend. Thank you very much.